I think we're live. Aloha, can you hear me, everybody? Little Cameron is awake. He woke up just in time for the live stream. So he is going to join us for, I think, most of it. So it should be a lot of fun. Yay! Oh, good. I have my iPad over here to my side. So I'm just occasionally looking at it. I see people saying yay and they see it. They see me. Fantastic. And everybody can hear me just fine, hopefully. Yeah? You want to say hello to everybody, Cameron? Say hi to all of your fans. Say hello. Hello. He's still a little sleepy, so yeah. There we go. Mwah. But Cameron's doing good. I'll just chat a little bit while Craig is doing some finishing touches on some things. So we've got, today is going to be intro to music theory and soloing. The great thing is they go hand in hand, so this is going to work out perfect for those of you that are interested in both. And also it's going to make, hopefully connect a lot of dots for you guys too. I'm just making sure I didn't. Oh yes, Eric, I did get your birthday card. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. Yes, aloha. Oh my gosh. So many folks from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so exciting to see folks from Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and I know some folks have woken up quite early and are joining us from Australia as well. So thank you guys for being so hardcore to join us live at 3:30 in the morning on a Monday. That's amazing. But so the intro to soloing, if you haven't already gotten your packet, please go to our website, craigandsarah.com, and click on the live stream tab. You should see where you can get your packet. It's $5. We have other ones that are available as well. There's the $15 one, which is, it's the same package just for those that want to donate more. And then we also have something called the Diaper Club for this month, where you get, your cover has Cameron on it for your packet, but when you get the updated second packet, because everybody who orders one, you'll get the updated second packet full of all of the stuff that Craig is going to go over today. He wants you to fill in as you go, and then we'll give you a version that he's filling in today, as well as any other follow-up material that he might want to give you. But the Diaper Club folks are actually going to be getting an arrangement of Lovely Hula Hands, which is a song that I actually sing to Cameron every night, and I have sung to him ever since he was born. I have no idea why that particular song became his lullaby, but it has. And so, and you're also going to get a special thank you from Cameron as well for being part of our August Diaper Club. So thank you guys so much. This is our live stream before a big move. It's really exciting. I mean, yes, we still have a house we all need to pack, but I can't wait to get there and to go ahead and get started on the next chapter. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, I think. And Craig and I joke it's going to be really nice for Cameron to see other people besides us in his life, since we will be with Craig's folks, which will be excellent, so that they get to enjoy their grandson and he can see someone else besides just Craig and I. Because, yeah, poor guy. I always feel so bad. He might think that we're the only people in the world sometimes. Aw, you guys are so sweet. Hi, everybody. Oh, yes, Cameron does look like he's taking things seriously, doesn't he? He is, like, mega observing the world. Plus, he did just wake up. So, and he also has on his, very serious attire as well. So that's, oops, I'm blocking him with the mic. I'm sorry. So that's also leading to his seriousness as well. He's ready. Aren't you, Bubba? Nom, 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 nom. He has started solids, so we've had some exciting times. Those of you that are parents understand what I'm talking about. So, but he's doing really well. Can you believe it? He is 7 months old. I can't believe it. 7 months, this little guy. Mwah. Aw, you guys. And his favorite thing currently is bouncing. Aw, you guys. Argentina? How cool. I love seeing where everybody's from. Thank you guys so much for joining in on the chat. So today I won't be as present because I'm going to be hanging out a lot with Cameron. However, I am going to be in the chat. I am going to try to answer questions, especially because I know Craig might not be able to get to all of them, but hopefully I can answer some as he's going through intro to music theory and soloing. I think when Craig first started teaching this class at uke festivals, it was first it was just the theory, and what was the name of it? It was something like Craig's ridiculously easy, non-intimidating, non-threatening introduction to theory for the ukulele. So I wanted us to name it that, but that was going to just be way too long for the packet and everything else. So but now you know that's it should be and I shouldn't say it should be easy because that's not totally what I mean, but it should be easy to follow. And he's really good at taking you from point A to point B and getting all of that sort of information that seems really intimidating and then kind of breaking it down so that you can go, okay, I got it. Because by the end of it, you're going to understand what it means when a musician says, we're going to play a 1-4-5 in the key of X. And you'll be able to transpose too, actually, after this, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, there's a lot of great stuff in this particular class. So.
And actually, I'm going to switch for just a second. Hello, everyone. This is my first big debut, I think, of my haircut that I gave myself.
He did it all himself. I did not touch it.
But again, the big thing that I ran into when talking to people about theory is, once you mention the word theory, their eyes glaze over and they're like, oh no. and a lot of it, even if you understand it, being able to apply it is a whole nother thing, right? So, the big goals today is to talk about how basic theory is applied to the uke and how to actually utilize and practice using that information to build your scales. And from the scales, everything kind of falls into place, from the soloing to knowing your chord family in a certain key. I mean, transposing, it all goes hand in hand. Again, if you guys are noticing a voice and video sync issue, please refresh your browser or refresh your feed. Usually that's 99% of the time it just needs to be refreshed and everything should sync. But just making sure for everyone, for the most part, is everything pretty much synced from everyone else? I do see a couple people that said there was a sync issue, but I just want to make sure that it is not just a sync issue. There's something else going on. But I gotta be honest, today I am a little bit nervous. Not because of the material presented, but because usually when I teach this workshop, there is a lot of kind of back and forth to make sure everyone's on the same page. So I am a little nervous. I'm going to try and take things slower in certain sections, but I'm going to do my best to make sure everyone's on the same page. But the big thing to remember is that all of this will be recorded. And so you can take your time, go back to the video, go piece by piece again, and this is going to be up for forever. So again, thank you for those who donated for a packet. Again, we'll be going through most of that material in a side screen here, so you don't necessarily need one to enjoy and learn here today, but it does help us be able to do these things for you guys. So thank you for your support. Thank you for those who donated more to pay it ahead for other people. It is still a current theme, and unfortunately people are still out of work, people are still struggling at this time, and it means the world that people took care of them, and I everyone's who asked for a packet because they couldn't afford to donate at this time, we're so happy, and it's the community taking care of each other. Thank you guys so very much. It just is, it's awesome. I can't thank you guys enough for that. But with that said, again, I am just incredibly excited to be teaching you guys this workshop. And the journal flow for today is, in about 20 minutes we'll officially start. Yeah, 20 minutes, buddy. And then, and then we'll take about 45 minutes to dive into the intro to theory section, and then utilize the next 45 minutes or an hour on how to apply it to soloing, utilizing different techniques, and really just, again, being able to know how to practice all of this and put it into play, not just have it stored in the back of your brain. So that's going to be the big thing today.
And I wanted to add, actually, Ashley asked a question about practicing theory during warming up and naming the notes on your uke. Oh,
move him. So yeah, there you go.
Sorry. It's hard for me to hold him. Hold on. So naming the notes while you play, of course, is great, which you mentioned, but you can also just name the number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can start going through 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 4, 1, 1, 5, 1. Going through with your intervals is great, but also taking the time on songs that you know pretty well. You can also sing the root note, and sing. You could sing the number too. Yes, Cameron. But singing the root note as you go through the song, if you can do it while you're strumming, great. But even if you just practice doing just that vocally, then you'll start to hear the root movement because you have practiced that. You can also do that with your uke too, where you sing the root and play the root as you go through, either with a playback or just looking at the music itself. I find that to be really helpful. And I think our friend Diane Nalini has, in her Ukulele for Jazz Singers, has some really great tips for that kind of stuff as well on her website, which I think is ukuleleforjazzsingers.com, I think. Diane, I think you are joining us in the chat, so if you could just write your website.
Oh, I don't think she can.
Oh, wait, no, I don't think you can.
Text us and then we'll write it.
Yes, I will write it in the chat in a little bit once this guy is done bouncing. But I just wanted to say that. And also, somebody had mentioned I have a giant microphone. Yes, we got that for our, we've been meaning to get a new studio mic. And so we ended up getting one. This is the Calaris by Roswell Pro Audio, and this
amazing microphone.
Yes, and we got this one just in time for our gear live stream, which we did last live stream. I forget what date that was. I think it was like the 25th of July, and you can always check that out because I go through a series of mics to show you the difference.
All right, and again, we have about 15 minutes before we officially start. If there's anything in particular that you guys are really hoping to learn today or dive into, please let us know in the chat, because even if we can't get to it today, if I can't figure out a way to integrate it, I'll definitely keep that in mind for our next live stream, and I'll give some thought into that, or I could probably help answer that in the next 15 minutes. So we'll definitely.
And those of you who said Cameron was looking so serious, as you can see, he is now woken up. He's ready to party. Aren't you? Aren't you, Baba? He's ready to party. Oh, and Cameron does have a jumper. We do have one for him. I keep threatening one day you're going to see on my Facebook. I'm going to go live on Facebook, and it's just going to be him in the jumper. And that's all it's going to be. You'll have no warning. And that'll be it. Oh. He really wants to play with the mic and the cables. He's going to be a gear guy, just like his dad, I think.
Nice. Glenn, that's a good one. Applying modes. We'll probably not touch on that just yet for today, because I want to get people playing without necessarily thinking of modes quite yet. And I'm actually interested, because there's some things that are going to be that things today that we parallel. I would love to get your feedback and seeing if actually some of the way we weave through this, it actually might be right up your alley on that.
And Karen, you're asking about soloing with ease. There's a couple of different approaches that you can take. One way for me that I found to be the easiest, that allowed me to be able to solo comfortably early on, was just going off of the melody. If you know the melody of the song really well and can play it, why don't you play that, but then play off of the melody? Because that will allow you to be able to play something that is familiar, but yet you can put your own spin and take on it. So that to me is one of the sort of easy ways to kind of dive in without necessarily needing to know, like, oh, I need to make sure to only add C scale notes or whatever. Like, if you know the melody really well, you can always play the melody and then do and drift from the melody slightly if you would like. So that's to me an easy way of
Now, Peter
getting in
Brown
it.
has a fantastic question. If you're playing a solo against chords that are not in the same family, for
Ah,
example, if you're
yes.
playing A minor and there's an E7 where the G sharp is in the E7 chord but not in the A minor scale, that is a fantastic question that I think
Yes.
we're gonna be tackling that in the middle of the second half, which is the soloing section today. So definitely let me know if I got your back on that. That's gonna be great. Oh my gosh, B flat and barring. Okay, real quick, because again, this left hand is so dang important to me. All right. Again, this is just sound check. You know, if you're just joining us, we're officially starting in about 12 minutes. B flat and bar chords. My 90-second spiel. Again, if you hold up your hand like this with a bent wrist and try to make a fist, it sucks, right? That's not fun. Again, straight wrist, make a fist, and you can see these forearm muscles being used. Much bigger muscles than the thumb and your index if you're doing a bar. So with that said, you know, a lot of the hold that you see us do has that naturally straight wrist because again, we're utilizing other muscles besides just pinching with the thumb. So you would typically see my thumb on the corner here. You know, so again, I can go from C, G, A minor, F, G7, E7, A7, D7, G, all without squeezing with my thumb. Again, as a lot of it is like that stress ball. Now, bar chords are a little different, but here's how we're gonna apply it. Index finger across the 5th fret. Now, as soon as I touch my thumb behind that bar, I do feel that pinch start to happen. So again, I can take my thumb completely off and still get that full chord. The reason is I'm pulling back into my left this way, and my right forearm is pulling this way. So there's this kind of seesaw effect. And again, I have to go through this when people ask because to me it's I injured myself because I was squeezing too dang hard. So part of this is making sure you guys don't go through that same pain. Now, the easiest way to work on the bar chord is to trick your finger because typically when we play the bar chord and when you do have the thumb, and I'm going a little fast because I do have some other videos that go over this slower. If you have questions on the B flat and bar chords, email us and I'll send you those links. But when you have the bar chord, thumb up about 2 frets up, that way you'll find the leverage change. So it goes, instead of a pinch, it's more of a roll. And you could do this all day without a lot of pressure, without a lot of squeezing. Now, when you start though, typically your bar chord will sound like this. All right? And the reason is, again, naturally as we squeeze, our fingers want to make a fist. So we're putting a lot of pressure on the tip and this part of our finger is lifting up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trick our finger. We're gonna take our index finger, place it on the A string, 5th fret. And again, we already did it wrong because you're probably squeezing way too hard to start. So shake it off. Put your index finger back on the A string, but just let it touch, just let it land like a feather on that A string. So if you were to pluck it, it wouldn't really ring. But then slowly apply just enough pressure until you hear it ring. That's all the pressure you ever need. That's it. Now, we're plucking that A string, correct? We're gonna take that index finger and bar 2 strings, but again, I don't care about the E string. I only care about plucking the A string. So make sure you have pressure on that A string. Now we're gonna hold 3 strings, but again, only worry about the A string. Not bad. Now let's try 4 strings. Only worry about the A string. Good. Now, if that A string is ringing, chances are the rest of it will be right there, because it's easier again to put more pressure on this part of the finger. But training your ear and training your finger to only worry about the A string while you're building that bar is going to allow you to put more pressure where it needs. Now,
Some folks are saying it's a bit quiet.
oh, check 1, 2, 3. Okay, I am getting close to, I can raise it a little bit. Check 1, 2, 3. That's about as much as I can raise it without OBS kind of yelling at me. So we'll try that. If that, hopefully that helps. Please let us know in the chat. Yeah, a lot of times, with broadcasting software, it makes it cut out just in case, because it doesn't want to ever clip, which is bad. Okay, so that's how we're gonna build that bar chord. Now B flat, let's go from F, because typically in the key of F, you'll see a lot of B flats. We'll tell you all about it in the next workshop coming up. Now, if we're in F, the easiest way to go to B flat is take your index finger. So you're gonna take your middle finger off, keep your index finger down. And what I'm gonna do is rotate my index finger. So I'm barring 2 strings, but at the same time, see how I'm reaching with the ball of my pinky? So from F, I'm gonna swivel. The ball of my pinky is gonna aim for about the 6th or 7th fret. And that's gonna change my position of allowing that to rest. So again, I don't even need my thumb quite yet. I can place it in the back, but I'm not really squeezing with it. So again, from here, I'm gonna rotate. And again, this is what my left hand is actually doing, just rotating just like this. So from F, rotate. Now, if you can do this, and again, look how straight my wrist is, I can drop my middle and ring finger exactly where they need to be. And the great thing about this particular way, and again, you're gonna wanna play B flat in a multitude of ways depending on the context, but the reason I like showing this way is a lot of times if we start the B flat like this, look how far that ball of my pinky is away from the fretboard, and it's causing that ring finger to want to drop and touch the rest of the strings. Now watch my ring finger as I bring the ball of my pinky closer to the fretboard, and you'll see that natural curve pop up. And actually, let me see if I can do this. Haha, so fancy today. So, here's my F. I'm gonna swivel to the B flat. And look how straight that wrist is. And again, the middle and ring finger drop exactly where it needs. And notice how they are kind of pointed up toward the headstock. That's totally okay. And again, we're gonna pulse by squeezing and then release, squeeze and release. The reason why we pulse is because we don't want to constantly grip this whole chord while we're trying to learn it. We just want to practice at one little strum at a time. So again, from F, I'm gonna swivel, F, swivel. And again, it's very light touch. You don't need to squeeze very hard at all. But look at that nice curve that's happening. Again, compared to having it out like this with the wrist, this guy wants to collapse across all 4 strings. Does that make sense? Does that help? Please let us know. And again, I do have some videos on that I did from previous workshops. And again, William, that is a good, I tell people to imagine having like that bowling glove when they practice this to kind of keep that nice and straight, because again, it doesn't need to bend out at all. Yeah.
And then I also wanted to add as well that I know for me, when I play B flat, I play it slightly different because I have very long fingers, where I actually do, Craig and I talk about how when you hold the uke, you have it resting here on your hand. Oh, yes, Cameron. And you have your thumb resting up top, so you've got this nice hold, for lack of a better word. And so what I tend to do is my index hooks in to cover 2 strings like that, and then I reach over. But this way doesn't work well if you have shorter fingers, because this finger tends to flatten out a little bit and sometimes hits the E and the A string. But for me, when I'm switching from F and then going to B flat, you can see that it really is a very minimal movement as my index just flattens and then these 2 fingers go here. But this isn't always as efficient necessarily unless you have really long fingers. But I always like to point that out just in case.
All right, now I know there are some questions we weren't able to get through just yet. I will do my best. Maybe at the end I can answer some of those questions as well.
Yes, and I will try to answer some questions via the chat too. We've got a little guy who is almost crawling. He is doing, he will army crawl with his arms and then push with his feet if he can get traction on our wood floor. So
all right, now I'm going from C to B flat, same kind of thing, because again our index can be ready for that spot. So what I'll do is I'll plant right there like my F chord and then do my swivel. So same kind of motion like the F to B flat. We have another question about
what's Craig's thumb doing?
A to B minor. So here's A. For B minor, I just slide up my index. And I like minor 7s way better than the typical minor. So typically, and a lot of times they're easier to play. From the F to B flat, my thumb is going from the top here, and again it's just a little bit of your thumb, and it is going to the back here, but again I'm not pressing very hard. I could actually play that B flat without my thumb in the same way I could do my bar, but it's there just to add a little bit more stability, but it's not the primary source of that chord.
And I also want to point out too that the idea that Craig is talking about for as far as using counter pressure for playing your bar chords, I actually recommend doing that for all of your chords, because a lot of us, I know for me when I first started playing, I squeezed every chord, but you can do counter pressure for all of the chords. It doesn't have to only be the bar chords, and in fact if you do that, you're going to use larger muscles and be able to play for longer because you're not wearing out your hands. So keep that in mind as you're playing even something simple as C. I don't need my thumbs, C, especially if I have it resting here, right? C, A minor, F, G7, and I'm just using counter pressure where I'm pulling in. And
Sarah, are you muted?
Shoot, I thought I had unmuted myself, but I had accidentally muted myself. I'm so sorry, gang. So I was just going to say that don't forget to use counter pressure even with your regular chords. That is something that I think is really, really helpful. So even with C, I'm not using my thumb because I'm using counter pressure, A minor, and then F and G7. Just remember to do that for your regular chords too, so you don't wear out your hands. You'll be using your larger muscles, and that's going to allow you to be able to play for longer and not wear your hands out. So even though Craig mentioned it for bar chords, use it for your regular chords too. It's super, super helpful.
All right, so it is, and again, these kind of stuff too. We do have a donation page on our website and a way for you to give us some ideas for future live streams as well. So that is something that you guys can definitely do. We'd love to hear, things that you guys want to learn. And again, we for the past few years, we started doing like a monthly live stream, mainly for our artist work students to kind of connect with them on another level. We do some really cool things, like we just did a Zoom thing where we talked about online performances and tips on like audio and video stuff and ways to perform in that setting with our artist work students. So we do have some exclusive stuff with them, but we do like opening up maybe once a month like this just to everyone and being able to share and give almost like a sneak peek of things that we do, not only with the school, but when you see us at festivals and whatnot too. So if there are things in particular that you want us to address, definitely let us know. And the counter pressure again is the left hand pulling back, whether it's a bar chord or like an F7 chord, and then pulling back into your body rather than squeezing. And the right forearm, that's your counter pressure, is pulling the opposite way. So again, like that seesaw effect. Okay. So that's where that counter pressure kind of ideal is just being able to support your chord without squeezing the heck out of it. All right, so we are officially going to start. I'm going to take off the sound check here.
All right, everybody, have fun with Craig. I'm actually going to take Cameron, and we're going to go so that he can go play in a jumper, but I will be back out, I promise. And I'm going to be answering questions in the chat as well. Oh, yes. So, but I'll be back in just a little bit because I know Craig will need me to help out some. I'll see you guys.
All right, and one other tip before we officially get started is definitely in the chat, you can press that little triangle that says top chat. Definitely go to live chat. That will make sure that you are keeping up to date in that chat. Sometimes things get a little wonky with the top chat function. Let's see. Awesome. All right, so if you're joining us live or you're joining us from the archived version that is yet to be made, welcome. Again, this is going to be our intro to theory and soloing on the ukulele. Mr. Brian Tolentino just popped on chat. Oh, awesome. Early for you guys, huh? Brian is asking, does it matter if you're wearing a strap? I tend to not like a strap mainly because I tend to move around a bunch and I feel like I'm, just confined. But I do agree that a strap can be an incredible tool.
And I have a 2 cents on that.
But we don't want it to be a crutch. That's the main thing about a strap. For me, if you get handed an ukulele and if it doesn't have a strap on and you can't play it, you know what I mean? That's not fun. You want to be able to play without a strap. And then when you do have a strap, it can allow you to be a little bit more free with some of your movement because you don't need a constant kind of pressure on the uke. But again, there's some really bad habits that a strap can have on you or create. And another big thing about the strap for me too is that most people don't tend to really set it up in its most efficient form. A lot of times it's way too low and they have a strap, but they're struggling to make chords because it's keeping them down here. That usually happens when you have a strap tied to here and the bottom. This becomes your center balance compared to a lot of the professionals will have it right here because all of a sudden you can kind of keep it right there where it needs to be at that nice angle to make a lot of these chords that much easier. And Sarah, did you want to?
Yes, I have some 2 cents for that. So I completely agree with Craig that straps are a great tool, but it's best to practice without one. That way, if you ever find yourself in a position where you don't have one, you can still play. And also, I know I had some very bad habits when I first started playing because I always used a strap. But I do, and I love to use a strap when I perform because I love being able to talk with my hands. But one thing to also think about, this is actually particularly for the ladies, you have to decide where on yourself the instrument will land because unfortunately we're not flat. So that means that you either need to go on top or below. And sometimes, depending on your bust, you might need a strap just to help you feel like the instrument is stable, and that I completely understand. You'll notice that, especially for the live streams, I don't play with a strap, and I play high. I go on top, and then because I'm doing that counter pressure thing, the instrument isn't going to go anywhere because I have my neck stabilized here between these two fingers, no matter what kinds of chords I'm playing, except if I'm playing bar chords, obviously my thumb's going to go in the back pointed towards the headstock the way Craig mentioned earlier, and then this arm, it's almost in the crook of my elbow and it's bracing. So I'm holding the instrument against my body and it's nice and stable for me without a strap. So that was just my 2 cents.
Awesome. Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for that question. This is one of the beautiful things about doing live streams is that we can actually answer things on the fly. All right, so let's get started. Sarah, are you muted and everything?
Yes.
Okay, making sure. And let's do this. Okay, so again, intro to theory on the uke. We're going to talk about the what, understanding what, how, what we're even talking about, how we can translate basic theory onto the ukulele. The how, we want to be able, after everything's said and done, to be able to complete scales in any key. Then utilizing those scales to show how to build chords, how to create different voicings, how to be able to use a scale to understand the family of chords in a key, and then understanding movable shapes. That will take our first 45 to 60 minutes. And then we'll talk about the why. And this is where we can really start talking about, the ability to jump into a jam and being able to quickly communicate, what key you're in, how to play, pretty much just walk in and start playing, and also how to use that information to start soloing and to start doing fills. And like I talked about in the very beginning, it's one thing to just know this knowledge. It's one thing to know how this is applied, but I'm also going to give you the tools to be able to practice this, not only by yourself, but when you do jump into groups and start playing. Because to me, and like Brian and Herbal will tell this, every single day of the week, you got to be able to play with others. There's something about it when you're just doing it on your own, it doesn't quite have that same effect. But when you're kind of thrown into it and you have to be able to adapt on the fly, you have to be able to quickly translate a lot of different things going on, that's where a lot of this will really become second nature. And again, and if you don't have people to play with, especially in today's environment with COVID, we'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit at the very end, I think, about how to start being able to play with like songs on the radio or Spotify or whatever you kids are into nowadays. Well, I shouldn't say Spotify. Play with CDs that you purchased on people's websites, because all of that goes to the artist, not just the 2.5 cents. All right. With that said, let's keep moving forward. All right. Let me do that. All right. So first off, this beautiful drawing that I did on the Notability app is, of course, a keyboard. Now, a lot of us use the keyboard as an example for theory just because it's so easy to see everything laid out. So I'm usually during these workshops, I'm in front of a whiteboard and I have a class of 30, 40 people. I ask a lot of questions. Now, for my own sake, and I'm not going to give you as much time probably because of the lag, but I would still like you guys to write stuff in the chat because it makes me happy that you guys are paying attention. All right, the white keys. What do the white keys represent? I'm going to give you guys 7 seconds. All right, the white keys represent our natural notes found in music. So in music, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. Doesn't go to H. And we'll start with C. So here, this is our C note. The white keys represent natural notes. So there's no sharps and there's no flats. And then it repeats. Now, the black keys, what do they represent? Yep, the black keys are your sharps and flats. Now, this is where it sometimes gets confusing. The black keys are the in-between notes. So between C and D, there's going to have two names. One, and again, we're going to start off very basic. We're going to start very slow, and then it's going to ramp up. So even if this is a little review for you right now, I promise you, hang in there. It's going to be worth it. Now, is either going to be called C sharp, and sharp, all we're saying with the sharp is that it's going up a step. So that's why starting from C, going up a half step is going to be C sharp. Now, it can also be called D flat, because again, because it's in between C and D, it can be called either or. It depends on the key, and we'll talk about this coming up a little bit later. But for now, does that make sense? Because if this is your D note and you went back a half step, you're flatting that note, so it would be D flat. But again, the name, depending on the key, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be called D flat. But again, we'll go into that in a little bit. Now, that means between D and E, it can either be called D sharp or E flat. Now, before we move on, every one of these, from C to C sharp or D flat, to D sharp to E flat, to E, all of those are what we call one half step when we go chromatically. How is this related to the ukulele already? If this is our open C string here, that's our C note. Now we're saying that every time we do a half step up from here to there, we are adding 1 fret up those strings. So we are going from C, C sharp, D, D sharp or E flat, to E, F, F sharp, G, etc. So this is, you can consider one string as one keyboard. You can go straight up chromatically, half step at a time. Each half step is 1 fret. Now, as we get to E and F, what is the big thing that we're missing? We're missing that black key. So when we say from E to F, if we want a half step, there's nothing in between E and F. So a half step goes directly from E to F. Okay, so again, so far, every half step went from here to there, to there, oh, don't mind that, there, to there, to there, to there, and then straight across. So we have to remember between E and F, and then as we look forward, and B to C, there's nothing in between those two, E to F or B to C. So I know something wonky is going to happen whenever I'm dealing with those particular ones. And again, we can fill out the rest of these black keys later. Now, have you heard the term whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half? That is the rule for major scales, is that pattern: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now, what that's saying is that if we have our scale 1 through 8, and actually I'm going to shrink this guy for a second. All right, 1 through 8. Again, 1 and 8 is the same note, but an octave jump, C and C. What we're saying here is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Building up that major scale means from 1 to 2, it's going to be a whole step. Now, what is a whole step? It's 2 half steps in a row. So, for example, if we were here at C and we went up 1 half step, it'll go from there to C sharp. Another half step is D. So a whole step is again 2 half steps combined. So they're saying between the first and second note in your scale, it's going to be a whole step. between 2 and 3, D, and let's walk that up half step at a time, is going to be another whole step. So that means, again, D, D sharp, E. So again, from one half step to another half step. Now, we said 3 to 4 is going to be a half. Now, again, a half step goes from E straight to F because there's nothing between E and F. Now, 4 to 5 is another whole step. So again, F to F sharp to G, right? 1, 2. So that's our whole step. 5 to 6 is another whole step. So G to A. Oops. And then from 6 to 7 is another whole step. So again, from A to A sharp or B flat, and then to B. And then here again is our last half step. And again, because there's nothing between B and C, it's a straight shot to C. So if we look at our C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, this is the only major key that does not have sharps or flats. It just happens to line up that way. Again, with the whole, half, whole, half. So, to me, the big things to remember as we move forward, if anything happens utilizing E to F, B to C, 3 to 4, or 7 to 8, I know something weird is going to happen. Now, let's take this a step further. And for now, what I'm going to do is erase this, and I'm just going to put a little kind of caret between the ones that we have half steps. E to F looks like a whole step. So remember, E to F, because there's nothing in between, there's no half step to jump anywhere. There's no black key in between E and F. So it's going to go straight across when we have a half step up from E. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, same thing from B to C. So here's where we can start applying this knowledge. Let's say now we want to make a scale in the key of F. So if F is our 1, our root, we said 1 to 2 is a whole step. So if we're looking at the actual F note here, and we want a whole step up, again, that's 2 half steps. So half step up to the black key, and then half step down to the next key. So that's a whole step away from F. So it's going to go from F to G. Now, 2 to 3, we're saying is also a whole step. So we're at G, and a whole step up from G is going to be A, right? So we're going from here, a whole step is going to be 2 half steps. So it's going to be 1, 2. So G to A. Now, we're dealing with 3 to 4 and E to F. So I know something weird is going to happen. So 3 to 4 is going to be said it's going to be a half step. Now, here's my A. That's where we're at right now. And we're saying 1 half step. So right there. Now, what note is that? Now, I'm going to say B flat. And here's the reason why it's not an A sharp. And this kind of threw me for a loop because it's actually so simple once you think about it. The reason why it has to be a B flat is because in our scales, we have to have a representation of every note or every letter. So you will never have an A and an A sharp in your scale. So this is how we can actually determine which note is either going to be called a sharp or a flat. And this is going to be also the reason why you will never see sharps and flats in your major scale. All right, so now we left off on We're at B flat right there. Now, again, looking at this section, I know because I'm dealing with a B of some sort, this is going to be a little weird. Something weird is going to happen. So I need a full step from B flat. So here's my B flat again, this guy right here. 1/2 step from B flat is B, but I need a whole step, which means I need another 1/2 step. So B straight to C, because again, there's nothing between B and C. So let's look at that one more time, because this is where it gets confusing and tricky for a lot of people. Again, our note that we're starting on is B flat. That's our 4 note in the scale. We want a full step up or a whole step, which again is 2 1/2 steps. So from B flat, 1/2 step up goes to B. Another 1/2 step up goes to C, because there's nothing in between. So that's why our 5 note is going to be a C. 5 to 6 is a whole step, C to D. 6 to 7 is a whole step, D to E. Now something weird is going to happen, because again, I'm dealing with not only a 7 to an 8, but an E. So here's my E. Let's go to this E. A 1/2 step up goes straight to F, because there's nothing in between to go to. So my 8 or my octave is also going to be an F. So a good way to test to see if you did this right is also that your 1 and 8 match up. Again, it should be the same note, but it's going to be an octave jump. All right. Let's take another step ahead. Let's do D. Fine, let's do D. All right. So if D is our root, and we'll just do a couple more of these. If D is our root, again, 1 to 2 is going to be our whole step. So D and our whole step is going to be to E. Now something weird is going to happen, right? Because I'm dealing with an E. Now 2 to 3 we know should be a whole step. So here's my E. And I need a whole step, which means I need 2 1/2 steps. So let's do 1 1/2 step at a time. E straight to F, because there's nothing in between. That's our first 1/2 step. Our second 1/2 step is going to be to that F sharp. Now, why does it have to be called F sharp and not D flat? I mean, it's not D flat, F sharp or G flat. Why is it not called G flat? Again, because we need an instance of every letter. So, again, has to, because we didn't have an F before that, it has to be F sharp. Now, again, flags are going off my head, because now we're dealing with 3 to 4, so we know something weird is going to happen. So here I am at F sharp. Again, I just need a 1/2 step. From 3 to 4, my 1/2 step is going to be F sharp to G. That's it. See, is it getting a little bit easier? Now, 4 to 5 is a whole step. So G to A. Nothing tricky there. 5 to 6 is another whole step. A to B. Now, something weird is going to happen because I'm dealing with a B. See, these are the things that really start to pop out as you practice going through this. So we're at B. And we say we need a whole step, 6 to 7. So that means 2 1/2 steps. If I'm at B, my first 1/2 step, straight to C. My second 1/2 step, C sharp. C, not too bad, right? And then, again, something weird is going to happen because I'm dealing with a 7 to an 8. 7 to an 8 we know is going to be a 1/2 step. A 1/2 step up from C sharp is going to be straight to D. And again, the 1 and 8 should match, which it does. So we are set. We have an instance of every letter. We are good. Now, some of the things that you can start thinking about too is whenever you're dealing with a whole note, if it's not dealing with any kind of E to F or B to C type of thing, it will always be natural to natural or sharp to sharp or flat to flat. Again, you're not going to see a mix of sharps and flats. Let's do one more as an example. So here, let's try it in A. So A is our root. So we know 1 to 2 is a whole step. So A is going to be straight to B because we have A sharp, B. That's our 2 half steps there. Now something weird is going to happen here because we're dealing with the B. So here's my B. 2 to 3 is going to be a whole step. So again, that's 2 half steps. Here we go. So from B, again, half step up, it goes straight to C because there's nothing in between. Another half step up from C is our C sharp. Now again, why does it have to be called C sharp and not D flat? Because we need an instance of every letter. See, this is starting to get easy now. Now, again, I'm at 3, so something weird is going to happen because I'm dealing with 3 to 4. So 3 to 4 means we need a half step. So here's my C sharp. A half step up is straight to D. That's it. See, easy, easy, easy. Now, 4 to 5. Again, not too bad, a whole step, D to E. 5 to 6. Oh, I'm dealing with an E. I almost forgot. So I know something weird is going to happen. Here's my E. And I need a whole step, which is 2 half steps. So my first half step is E to F. My second half step is F to F sharp. And again, why F sharp? Because we need an instance of every letter. Now, 6 to 7 is a whole step. And we talked about if you're not dealing with some kind of E to F or B to C, it's always going to be sharp to sharp or half to flat to flat or natural to natural. That means here's my F sharp and I need a whole step up. Again, with practice, you'll know that it's just straight to the next sharp. But let's walk this over just in case. We're at F sharp and we need 2 half steps, 6 to 7, right? So F sharp, half step up is G. Second half step up is our G sharp. So not too bad at all. So here's our G sharp. And then again, 7 to 8, I know is going to be half step, G sharp, half step up is A, which matches again. So 3 to 4. D, E to F sharp changed at 3, not 4. So that C sharp again, and this is a good question again. 1 to 2, 1 to 2 we know is a whole step, right? And the tricky part is 2 to 3 is also a whole step, but when we're going from B, a whole step up from B, which is here, means my first half step is to C. My second half step for my completion of the whole step is that C sharp. So that's why that third note is a C sharp. And again, from 3 to 4 is just a half step. So that's why we went from C sharp to D. Hopefully that makes sense there. All right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Now, we just had a note in the chat says, try the key of B. Now, there are multiple ways of tackling this, right? This is, again, using that whole, half, whole, half. But let's say we're playing in A. maybe it's too low for me. So I can say, maybe let's try it in B. So this is another easy way of quickly transposing something. If we wanted to transpose it into B, again, there's multiple ways of dealing with this. We look now at the relationship between the original scale and the scale that we want to go into. So the example in the chat was B. So if we are now trying to transpose it into B, we look at the relationship between A to B, which happens to be what? A whole step. So that means I can translate that to the rest of the chords one at a time. So I can go from B. So here's my B here. And what's a whole step up from B? A little tricky. Let's go half step at a time. A half step up from B is C, but I need a whole step. So I need one extra half step. So C sharp. Now, a whole step up from C sharp here is going to be D sharp. A half step up, because 3 to 4 is going to be E. A whole step up from E is again F sharp. A whole step up from F sharp here is going to be G sharp. And then a whole step up is A sharp. And then we can either think of the 7 to 8 half step, or again, keeping this in mind, a whole step up from A is going to be again B. But again, so there's multiple ways to get to where you need to be. Again, and the more general knowledge of this, the easier and easier and easier it's going to get. Now, right now, not many people play in B. So for me, it's like how I want you to utilize this right now. Whenever you wake up in the morning, I want you to pick a key that you frequent. You know, C, D, we have the Fs, we have Ds, we have Gs, As. I want you to be able to start with just, write 1 through 8 and then put that caret on 3 to 4, 7 to 8. And I want you to be able to walk through your scale list and start making these scales, again, when you have your morning coffee, just to get them in your head. Now, why is this important? So let's move forward. And again, after this little section, I'm gonna pause for a little bit just to catch up with some of the chat and see if there's any big questions that I need to kind of go over. Now, the major triad. What is the major triad? And again, right now here, right here is my scale notes in the key of C. So again, no sharps, no flats. For the major triad, what we're saying, actually, before we even get into major triads, what is the difference between a note and a chord? What is the difference between a note and a chord? So a note represents a single note, right? Or a chord represents usually 2, 3, 4 and above notes in a row, right? That's the difference, a bunch of different notes together. When we talk about a major chord, a major triad, what we're actually saying is in that scale, we want the 1, the 3, and the 5. The 1, 3, 5. Easy. But how many strings do we have on our ukulele? We have 4, right? Again, looking here, our string names and note names for those strings are G, C, E, and A. So let's take a look at what's going on, because we have 4 strings, but we only need 3 chords for 1, 3, 5. So again, we're in the key of C. So our 1, 3, 5 would be our C, our E, and our G. Okay. So that means here's my G, so that's covered. Here's my C, that's covered. Here's my E. Between those 3 strings, we already have the C major triad done. But again, we have 4 strings. So that means, and as most of you know, this guy here is going to be, let me do a quick fill. There we go. That guy there is what we typically think of as the C chord, correct? Now, again, we already have the triad covered between these top G, C, and E strings. That extra note, how do we even find that note? Great question, Craig. So, again, multiple ways of doing things. If we're trying to figure out what note that is, we can look at what string we're starting on, the A string, and every fret, again, is a half step. So it's going to go from A to B flat to B, and because there's nothing between B and C, it's going to go straight from B to a C note. So we do have a double of those C notes. So a triad is a combination of multiple, it could be 3, 4, 6 strings, but only hits those 3 notes. So again, we have an octave jump between the low C and that high C. Now, let's take a look at this. The major 7th chord, and this is where our chord voicings become exponentially more beautiful and interesting to play, because there's going to be 4 different notes. Because what we just played there, the triad was only 3 notes, but 1 was repeated. So looking at a major 7th chord, what that is asking for is a 1, a 3, a 5, and if you're a guessing person, what would you think? Yep, a 7. So this is how easy it is. So again, is asking for the same 1, 3, 5. Now our 7th note is that guy right there, B. Nice and easy. Now, how does this relate to our guy in the corner here? Again, we already have our triad there. To get to a B, we can take that extra C note here and go down to a B. Now, this is the big deal. A 7th note, as we know, is only a half step away from that 8. So that is going to be our 7th note. So it's going to sound like this. So we went from a triad to the major 7. Now, the night triker, the night triker, this is what is confusing. This is my biggest beef with music theory, especially with the ukulele. There is a big difference between a major 7 and a dominant 7. And it's super confusing because, so this is what it is. A dominant 7 chord is actually asking, let me erase this stuff for a second. A dominant 7 chord is asking for 1, 3, 5, and then a flat 7. That's the most frustrating thing ever, because when people say, oh, play a C7 chord, what they're actually meaning to say is, hey, can you please play a C dominant 7 chord? That's what they really mean. And because people leave that out when you're first starting, no one knows what it is. And it took me the longest time to understand that there is a difference between a major seventh chord that uses the actual seventh note, which is that B, compared to a C7, which is actually asking for a flat 7 note. What? It's super, super confusing, but now we know. So, with that said, what that means is, again, if this is our C note, or considered our 8 note, right, in our scale, if we went down half a step, that would be our 7 note or our B. Now, if we flatted that 7, this becomes, oh, come on. Oh my gosh. Oh, why not? Oh, there we go. Okay. To a B flat, which is our 7th note flatted, right? So that's why, and let me switch cameras for a second. And that's why, again, this is our C major. Half step down, that's our major 7th note, which is that 7, which is the B. But when we ask for C7 or C dominant 7, we flat that 7th note. And that's why that looks exactly like our C7 chord. And again, the full name of that is C dominant 7. See, these words, as we just need to understand. We just need to understand what these things are saying. And once we understand it, because again, this is a template, but we just have, like, the dominant 7 thing threw me off for the longest time. But once you know, you know. So again, major 7th chord is using the actual 7th note, which is a half step down from that C note. And then dominant 7, you're going to flat that. And again, a lot of times you have that walk down too from a C major chord. And you go to the 7th note to the flat 7, has that nice movement there. So you can always think about that as your passable chord as well, or note there. Now, the last one we're going to go over for now is our major 6th chord. Now, if you are a betting person, what do you think this is asking for? It's asking for 1, 3, 5. So it still wants that major triad, right? But what do you think it's going to ask? For a 6. You're absolutely correct. Now, what is our 6th note? So again, we have our 1, 3, 5, and our 6th note, which is an A. So if we look at what's happening here, we have our 8 note. We flatted it to our major 7th. Then we flatted it to our dominant 7 or flat 7. And then we can take it one step further and hit our 6th note right there. So that means we're going from a C major with that 8 note on top, C major 7 with the 7th note in the scale right there, flat it for the dominant 7. But then for a C major 6. So this is why we say that your typical tuning is a C6 tuned instrument. This is where you finally can say, oh, that's C6 tuning, because you're playing an open C6 chord. See how easy this is? It literally is explaining every little bit. We just have to pay attention and understand what they're asking for. So this is the major 6 tuning that most of these instruments are tuned in. Again, a lot of the Canadian tunings are D6 tuning, which means everything is tuned up a whole step, but it does play that D major 6 chord when you play it, the open strings. Not too bad. So, and again, that's the most confusing thing, because everything else you would say, you know, is kind of short form in the sense where you would say C and you're actually asking for the major triad, which means you're going to be repeating one of those notes. Or C major 7 is 1, 3, 5 with that 7th note. C dominant 7 can be shortened to just C7, but that's again what it means. C major 6 typically gets shortened to just C6. So those are those are how those are all connected. Again, this is just this right now is just the kind of start into it, because there's so much we can do with this information right away. But again, this is where we can talk about down the road 9th chords, 11s, 13s. We'll get to there. But for now, this is where we want to kind of start so that we can kind of push forward. All right, so I'm going to use one more example, and then, because again, examples are good. I would hate to just kind of talk story and then introduce a bunch of things but not really show again how you can practice this on your own. But let's take a look at another chord. So, and by the way, even though we won't dive into a ton of different voicings for the minor chords, what is the difference between a major triad and the minor triad? So 1, 3, 5 is major. What is minor, for those of you who know? Oh, that's horrible handwriting. 1, flat 3, and 5. So that's the big difference. All right. So let's look now. Let's take a look at the key of A. I love the key of A. It's so much fun. All right. So let's quickly do this real quick. So this template up here was if we were to play in the key of C. Using what we know now, that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, let's write this out in A. So if A is our 1, we know 1 to 2 is a whole step. So A to B. I know something weird is going to happen because I'm dealing with a B, but I need a whole step. So let's walk up 2 half steps in a row. B, a half step up from B is C. Another half step up is going to be C sharp. Now 3 to 4, I know something weird is going to be half step, C sharp. Half step up is D. 4 to 5 is a whole step, so E. Something weird is going to happen. I'm at E. I need 2 half steps for that whole step. So 1 half step up from E is going to be F, but I need another one, so F sharp. 6 to 7 is a whole step, so I need G sharp. And then half step back to A. So my 1, 3, 5 in this case will be my A, my C sharp, and my E. That's my 1, 3, 5 major triad. So if we're looking at the A chord, again, we have a G, a C, an E, and an A note already available from those open strings. All right, so we need an A note, which is already present. An A note, which is already present there. An E note, which is already present there. Now, I need a C sharp, which is going to be right there. And then I need to repeat either an A, C sharp, or E. So if I'm starting at G here, my next closest letter or note that is coming up is going to be an A. So I can walk that up. So if this is G, I know my next note is going to be a G sharp. Half step up again is A. So I know that A note is going to be where I want to put that finger. So let's do this. So I have my A note here, my C sharp there. So that's my A chord. I have a double up on my A right there. So I have my root, my open A, my open E, which is my 5 note, my C sharp, which is my 3 note, and I have a repeat of my root, on top. All right, now let's walk through those different voicings. A major 7 is again a 1, 3, 5. So let's take a look at this again. I have my triad right with these 3 notes right there, and a double up with the A here. So if I wanted an A major 7, all I had to do, or have to do, is take my 8 here and play the 7th note. So I'm going to go from A. I'm going to take my extra A and make it a G sharp, which is a beautiful chord. And then if I wanted a dominant 7, I'm going to take that 7 note up here, that G sharp, and flat it one more time to an open. So that's my A7 or A dominant 7 chord. Not too bad, right? And again, because I can't flat that another time, when I do my major 6 chord, that's when I'm going to do some shuffling around to make sure I get every note there. Now, again, the more we do these manipulations of our basic triad chords, the more we see how a lot of these shapes are so close to the original. With just a little manipulation, we can start creating all of these different voicings. Okay, so I'm going to take 45 seconds and just see if there's anything I need to answer in the forum. I mean, not the forum, but the chat before I move on. And you guys are troopers. Again, this is not an easy thing to tackle. You guys are doing a great job. And again, it's even harder when we're not face to face. You know, there's something to be said about really making sure everyone's on the same page. I hope you guys are being able to grasp everything. I'm definitely trying my best to, because to be honest, again, I am a little nervous because the theory stuff can get a little tricky, especially in this online format. So I hope everything is making. Ooh, you guys had a lot of great, perfect answers in there. I'm not seeing anything that wasn't answered by Sarah or other people. Great job. Oh, I'm so glad there's some light bulb moments. And again, this is the stuff I wish, you know, again, there's something to be said about the mix between practicing the physical part, right? The just hours and hours of practice, and then the scholarly thinking of the theory and the why, and finding that balance, because it does go hand in hand. The more because if we spend too much time like on just theory stuff, most times we're not going to be able to play anything well, because we don't train our fingers and our muscles to have that memory and being able to do what we want. But then we also get stunted if we just focus on the physical stuff and just play mindlessly. And I mean, and there's something about that. You can just have fun and play, but when you start applying some of these small elements and seeing how it all relates, it's almost like realizing your favorite book had a secret code in it, you know, and it's this rabbit hole, and you start to appreciate like all these other musical things, because you're starting to piece together what they're doing and how they're talking and utilizing these rules and then breaking those rules. I mean, that again, this is just the start of all of this. And again, once we apply it to the soloing stuff at the end here, I hope to really introduce you to this whole other level in your playing and your ukulele adventure. That's my main goal from today. All right, so let's talk about family of chords. Let's see. Oh, okay, sorry. This is the previous page. And again, if you donated for a packet, I'll have all these ones with the notes on it added to that as well. We'll send that to you because we have your emails from that. Yes, the difference between that dominant 7 and major 7 is that the major 7 is actually asking for the actual 7 note, where dominant 7 is a flat 7 note that they want you to play. All right. Perfect. Now, family of chords. This again. Oh, and I'm going to quickly showcase what's in the packet as well, because Sarah made this amazing PDF down lower in the packet. But this has like all of that, like the minor 7 flat 5s, diminished 7s, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot more information than just my handwritten stuff in there as well. We wanted to make sure that you had a bunch to work on. Okay, so let's get back up to family of chords. So again, we're back. We're back to the key of C. Our scale notes, right? 1 through 8, the octave jump. No sharps, no flats in the key of C. If you can say, any given key, write out your scale just like this. This is where you can apply it to the family of chords that you're going to frequent. Now, this is where we say major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. Easy. Let's break it down one more time. So our 1 is going to be a major, of course, because we're in a major key. 2 is going to be our minor. 3, minor. 4, major. 5, major. And this is also usually where you have a dominant 7. I'll talk about that in a second. 6 is going to be minor. 7 is usually diminished, but for the most part, you're not going to see a lot of 7 chords out there. So for now, don't even worry about that for the time being. It's just focus on 1 through 6. Now, what this means is that not only are these your scale notes, but these are the chords you're going to frequent in that key. So 1 chord is going to be a major. Your 2 chord is going to be a minor, so it's going to be a D minor. Your 3 chord is an E minor. Your 4 chord is going to be F. Your 5 chord is going to be a G or G7. Your 6 chord is going to be a minor. 7 chord, don't really worry about it right now. So what this means, if you have that template, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor in your head, and someone says, hey, we're playing this song, come jump in. Oh, what's the progression? And they say, oh, it's in F, or I'm sorry, in C, 1, 4, 5. What they're saying is that for the major progression that they're doing, it's going to be a 1, 4, 5 progression, which means that's going to equal to a C major, 4 chord is an F major, 5 is a G or G7. So it should sound something like, and actually let me plug in. I should probably mute. Let me mute this. Hopefully it doesn't pop. Let's see. Let me mute this just in case. I like playing it safe. Okay, so let's see, maybe about there. Okay, so what that means is a 1, 4, 5 in the key of C. C, F, and G. C, F, G. C, F, and G. And again, you're going to be able to tell when they're changing chords, because I'm not saying 1, 4, 5 doesn't mean anything about how long you're holding each chord. So that's, you just got to kind of use your ear for that. But let's say, oh, what about a 1-6-2-5 progression? Ooh. So a 1-6-2-5 progression is going to be a C major. Our 6th chord is going to be an A minor. Our 2 is going to be a D minor. 1-6-2-5, and a 5 chord is going to be a G or G7. So all of a sudden we have a 1-6-2-5 progression in the key of C. Easy. C. 6 minor, A minor, D minor for the 2 minor, and G or G7 for the 5 chord. But this is why in the key of C, you almost always see Fs, you almost always see G or G7, you see a lot of A minors, and you see a lot of E minors. You typically recognize when you're playing in certain keys, you're frequenting the same kind of family whenever you're playing in that given key. Let's take a look at a different key then. So let's say we're playing in F. A lot of people like F. So again, if I was to quickly write this out, again, this is why we do the homework with the coffee, right? So F is our 1. Whole step to 2 is going to be a G. Whole step from G is A. 3 to 4 half step, A to B flat, because we need an instance of every letter. Something weird is going to happen. B flat, up a half step is B, up another half step is C. Yep. Whole step to D. Yep. D to E. Yep. And a half step back to F. See how easy? So again, now knowing that. Oh yeah, go ahead. And Sarah's going to add something really, really quick.
Okay, so one thing I just wanted to add real fast is that notice when you're in the key of C, all of those chords that Craig listed that are in the family of your major chords or your major scale degrees, notice how there's no sharps or flats in any of those chords. All of the ones, you can map them all out. And so you'll notice that that's part of why those chords go in that key, is because all of those chords use only the notes found in that scale. So keep that in mind too, because that's another way you can kind of check your math.
That's a really great example. So for example, again, she's saying that in the key of C, all of those chords, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, will all include natural notes. Again, because there's no sharps in C, in the key of C. So if we look at C, again, G, C, E, C, in D minor, A, D, F, A, again, no sharps or flats. E minor, G, E, G, B, no sharps or flats. F chord, no sharps or flats. G, G, D, G, B, no sharps or flats. A minor. So that's why those are going to be perfect within that family.
And then the one last thing I was going to say that I'm sure Craig mentioned about the diminished is that that's not a diminished 7 chord. It's a regular diminished triad, and it's going to have no sharps or flats in that. So a lot of times people will say diminished and shorten the diminished 7th name to say just diminished, but that's a different chord. But that's a whole other class. Don't worry about that right now. And then because somebody had mentioned, well, can you have major chords, your 1 through 5 be all major? You can, but you are technically breaking the rules of the major scale degree, and that's fine. You'll discover in music a lot of rules get broken. That's my 2 cents. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, shoot. Actually, let me say that one more time real fast. Sorry.
What?
Could everybody hear me? I'm so sorry. Sorry, I was just going to say real quick that you can have notes that are not found in the major scale degree, of course, in the key you're in, but those are rules that get broken, and you'll discover in music a lot of times rules get broken, but I just wanted to put in that 2 cents, so thank you guys so much.
Was that whole thing needed?
I didn't think so, but I've been trying to do it, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're trying something new where she has control over her own mic, but it doesn't seem to be really working out currently. Hopefully that was all caught up with. Okay. Now, I did see a question with the 1625. Why is there an A minor and D minor? Again, the 1 is always going to be a major. Your 4 and 5 will be majors. 5 will be major, maybe a dominant 7 as well. And then for your 2 chord and 3 chord and 6 chord, they will be minor chords. So that's why the 6 chord is an A minor and the 2 chord is a D minor. All right. So let's now look at the key of F. If I told you to play a 1, 4, 5 in the key of F, what would that look like? So 1, 4, 5, key of F. Again, our 1 chord is, so here's the key of F. F, our 4 chord is the B flat, and our 5 chord is C or C7. So again, that's why is our 1, 4, 5 F, B flat, and C. So here's the cool thing. If you're playing, again, in C at a 1, 4, 5 progression, and oh my gosh, that's way too high for me. I can try and let's try it in F. But it sounds exactly the same, just in that lower register, because we're keeping the progression consistent. 1, 4, 5. Now, if we were to look at a 1, 6, 2, 5 progression in the key of F, what does that look like? Again, 1, 6, 2, 5 in the key of F. 1 is our F. 6 is going to be, that's correct, our D minor, because our 6 chord is a minor. 2 chord is going to be our G, but minor because our 2 chord is also minor. And then our 5 chord is going to be C or C7. Okay, so F, D minor, G minor, C, F, D minor, G minor. Now, again, this is going to be for like 99% of the songs out there. But again, rules are meant to be broken, and there's going to be some things that will completely change these rules. A really big example is Hawaiian music. And this is why in vamps, when you're playing Hawaiian music, typically your vamps is a 2-5-1 progression, but with a catch. A 2-5-1 vamp, let's say we're in the key of C. So let me move this down. Oops. And let's go back to key of C. So vamp, we're going to call a 2-5-1. Now, that means typically 2 is our D minor, 5 is our G or G7. We'll put a G7 there for now. And our 1 is our C. So it sounds like this. Oh, yes, and that's a great point. Sorry, so the if I was to write this in Roman numerals, 1, 4, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, 5, and then 1, 6, 2, 5. Yes, hopefully that makes more sense. So the vamp is our 2-5-1, typically written as is, but here is the difference. For Hawaiian music, it's not, they change the minor of the 2 to a dominant 7. So it sounds more like this. It just has that. So And yes, Michael, that's definitely 1-6-2-5 is the most common progression in kind of jazz or rhythm changes. Absolutely, which is why we use that for that example. But that's the big difference between a typical like kind of jazz vamp or jazz turnaround compared to a Hawaiian turnaround with a dominant 7. So again, this is just the start of your kind of journey as we progress through this. But that's again one of the major differences and why it's important to kind of understand the base rules and then how things can manipulate it for what reason. Whew. All right, so utilizing this is where I want you to kind of practice being able to just kind of jump in. If people are playing in the key of C, you know what your root chord is, and you can kind of hear when it resolves to that root chord. But start to think about what the progression overall is like. One of the biggest tips I have is when you're going through your huge book of sheet music, next to the letter, and pick stuff that's easy for now. Pick songs that are in C. Next to each chord, C, E minor, A minor, write the Roman numerals next to it of what number it actually represents. Because then you're going to start talking in numbers rather than chords. And that is incredibly helpful, again, when you need to transpose on the fly, or if you need to change it for another instrument or another tuning, or just to be able to play it in a different key for your voice. This is all going to become so important. So part of it is, again, practicing, in the key of C, knowing referring to things as the 1 chord or the 6 chord is going to be incredibly beneficial moving forward, and being able to quickly transpose on the fly and to be able to talk with other people as well. Don't forget about that weird bridge. It goes at 2 minor for a while, that kind of thing. That way, again, you're not just stuck having one version of all these songs. You have now the ability to completely change this up. All right. You guys are doing great. Let's keep pushing forward. Okay. One last big element of the theory part before we start diving into the soloing section. Now, let's do the chord shapes first. Now, there's going to be 4 big movable shapes of every kind of voicing, like major, minor, major 7, etc. Just 4. Okay, that's it. 4. Now, we're going to do one at a time. Let's start with just C. Okay, so, and I'm gonna use the highlighter for this. Let's do that. So typically, in our C chord, we have those 3 open, and then we have a finger jumping all the way out. Julia, we have once we get into the soloing part, that will be probably another 40 minutes. So we're about 45 minutes to go, I think. And again, the reason why we're combining these workshops is that it goes hand in hand so much, and it's nice to actually kind of connect it on the fly like this. So here's our C shape. It happens to be, and actually let me move this really quick. It happens to work out that the C shape is actually playing the C chord, but I'm going to put shape there because that's important. Now, the next instance of a C chord, let's use red, is we're going to take that last note that we're playing. And what I mean by last note is the furthest note down that fretboard, which happens to be the 3rd fret, because everything else is open. Now, from that finger, I'm going to replace it with my index and make what looks like a B flat shape. Now, this isn't in the packet itself, what we're using right now, but I have the, I'll show you guys what, I have the full version of this as a PDF already, but we're going to kind of walk through this together. All right, so from here, we're going to call that the B flat shape. So again, how we got there is going from the C chord and the C shape, and then replace my ring finger with my index and start my B flat shape from there. So we're going to call this our C chord in the B flat shape, because it's the exact same chord, a little bit different voicing wise because some of these are higher pitch, but it's the exact same chord, C chord, all the way through and through. Now, the next shape that's coming up to continue the C chord is, we're going to look at our last played note. Again, that means the last fret closest to the bridge happens to be, again, our ring finger on that 5th fret. Now, what I'm going to do here is skip the entire next fret. So if I'm on 5 as my lowest played note, I'm going to skip 6 and then bar 7. So I'm going to skip and then bar the next. And once I bar, I'm going to make what looks like an F chord. So here's my bar, and then making an F chord. Now, and again, someone says, why not an A shape? I actually do sometimes say the A shape. The reason why I wanted to say B flat shape is that especially when you move it off of the open strings, you can instantly see that it's that B flat shape, is that it looks like exactly like a B flat. But it is a good point, because again, if I was to move this back down, I would say here's my A chord, but in that B flat shape. So that's why I use B flat instead. I mean, a lot of people will use A, but that's just how I like to teach this. Now, so again, let's go back from that B flat shape to the F shape. So the B flat shape started on the 3rd fret. Now, again, to get to my F shape, I'm going to skip the next fret, bar the next, and make what looks like an F chord. Let me switch cameras for just a second. All right, so again, I started here, my C shape, replaced my ring finger with my index, made a B flat shape. Ring finger is on 5, so I'm going to skip 6, bar the next, bar 7, and make what looks like an F shape. Now from here, yeah, I'll use let me use a darker color for that. Let me kind of do that maybe. Hopefully that helps. Now, the next shape, instead of a skip, I'm going to look at my last played note. So again, it happens to be my ring finger. And I'm going to do a step. And from there, what I'm going to build is my E shape. Yes, and Brian hit on the head. A lot of people use cage, C-A-G-E. I just didn't like, and it makes more sense in some ways, but I just like using that B flat for that shape because on the uke, it's such a notorious shape that everyone knows and fears. Now, what that means, again, from the F shape, I'm looking at my last played note, it happens to be on the 9. So I'm going to step to 10 with my index finger here and make what looks like an E shape. Whoa. Now, typically you will never play this chord all the way up here. It's just not fun at all. But this is how we're going to get there. And again, there are some other voicings that are actually way more beautiful and easier. But for now, we're going to stick with the major triads. Yes, these are all C chords. Again, this is C in the C shape. This is going to be C in the B flat shape. Skip bar next. This is C in the F shape. C in the E shape. But Craig, how do I go back to the beginning then? Oh, great question, Craig. So, if we look at these three in a row, to get back to the next shape, because I said there's only 4 shapes. So if we want to continue, all we have to do is those 3 are actually going to be the same 3 dots from the very beginning. Because it repeats back, let's see, to your C shape. Now, here's the coolest thing. It will always go from C shape to B flat shape to F shape to E shape. Always C to B flat to F to E shape. Now, what that means is, let's take a look at this one more time. Actually, let me just combine this. So I'll do this, I'll do that. And just in case I mess up, I will copy this. All right, so let's look at this one more time. Let's say I'm playing, let me put my uke down for a second. Let's say I'm playing, oh, come on, my A chord. Now maybe I'll just do this with my camera, hold on. So, let's say I'm playing my A chord. Now, what shape does that actually look like? Now, if you have open strings, what you're going to do to find what movable shape you're in is actually take your index, place it on this side of the white bar, and then make your shape with your remaining fingers. Because look, if I'm making my A chord, what shape now does that really look like? Correct, your B flat shape. And let me make sure this gets locked in. There we go. So that's my A chord in the B flat shape. Now, if we're at the B flat shape, what does that mean? The next shape is going to be the F shape. And how do we get there? We're looking at our last played note. We're going to skip the entire next fret, bar the next. So I'm going to bar 4 and make what looks like an F shape. So this is my A chord in the F shape. Now, from here, what's next? The E shape. So again, I look at my last played note, which happens to be on the 6th fret. I step to the 7 this time, and I make that E shape. Now my next one is I'm going to take those 3 in a row, replace it with the bar to make my C shape. And again, this is my A chord in the C shape. It's always in that order. Absolutely easy once you get the hang of it. And again, let's take a look at one more example. Let's go from my D chord. Now again, we have an open string, so that means I'm going to take my index finger up here and then play that D chord. Okay, now it makes sense because now we're playing the D chord in an E shape. Now, if I'm at my E shape, My next one is the C shape. How do I get there? Again, I replace the 3 in a row with a bar and then finger out. So this is my D chord in the C shape. Now if I'm in my C shape, my next shape is going to go from my pinky finger. I'm going to replace it with my index and start my B flat shape. So again, my D chord in my B flat shape. Now, again, if I'm in my B flat shape, to get to my next shape, my F shape, I'm going to skip the next fret. So ring fingers on 7, I'm going to skip 8, bar 9, and then make an F shape. So that's my D chord in the F shape. Again, all of this, you know, and here's the thing, especially with movable shapes, you know all of this. You've played all of these shapes for hundreds of hours. You know them by heart. Now, all you're doing is just applying it up the neck, and you're gonna have that incredible movement. So instead of just playing a C chord, I can do, or I could do, especially if other people are playing other voicings of that C chord. Or you can add movement. But all of a sudden, and here's the thing too, Brian Tolentino will always say, you bought all of these frets. You bought this entire neck that came with your ukulele. This is how we can start using them. And again, you already know these chords. And no one batted an eye when I said C shape. You knew exactly what I was talking about. B flat shape, you knew exactly what I was talking about. F shape with the bar, easy. The E shape, easy, because that's how we play it anyways. So part of it is, again, being able to utilize this in practice to become second nature. When you're jamming, you know, maybe for that particular night, anytime you see a regular C, you do a different C. And then maybe instead of the next night, maybe you do this C. But you start getting used to, when you see a certain chord, instead of instantly thinking of the bass version, try to think of those other versions as well. You know, Sarah used to do that a lot. The thing that worked for me, and again, this is where that Roy Sakuma Treasury of Ukulele Chords was so important, because I would tackle one chord a day, and I would say C major, C, my C shape, C in my B flat shape, C in my F shape, C in my E shape. And I'll do C, 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 C. And then the next day, I'll do, let's do Fs. So I'll do Fs, 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 Fs. Again, F, and then the F in the E shape, F in the C shape, F in the B flat shape. But then it just and because again, it's always that same rotation, it's always that same order, you're gonna find yourself exponentially getting this under your hands that much faster, because it's repeated. You're just starting on a different shape. That's all it is. Not too bad, right? Now there is one big thing that you have to remember, and this is the regular G chord. The reason why this is usually the standard way of playing G with an open G is because it happens to have the open G and it sounds okay, but it doesn't fall within these other shapes. This G though will. And how to get to this G, I want you to think of that for this first G being in an F shape, because if you do F without your index and everything moves up a fret with the bar, this is F sharp and this is your G. Which again brings me to a whole nother point. All of these other chords, you can find them again from different ways. Again, it's one thing to understand, you know, the different C shapes, or not shapes, but C chords in those different shapes, always in that same order. But let's say you want to quickly go from C to D. If you play C with your index finger all the way up here, if you moved everything up, what chord is this? C sharp major. What if you push this up another one? D major. And we know that's a D major because we know that this is D in the E shape, this is D in the C shape. If I moved it up again, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Again, there's multiple ways of getting to where you need to be. And as long as you move all 4 strings at that same frets, it will always be consistent of that major shape. So again, I can take an A chord, B flat, B, C, which we know, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. All of this is movable. Now I'm gonna let me type in the Roy Sukuma book for just a second, because it is such a good resource. Yeah, I used to have like 3 of these. one in my uke case, one in my car. Here is the treasury of ukulele chord. Such a good one. Please tell me we sent you. I am not getting the F in the B flat shape. So F in the B flat shape means all the way up here. So let's walk that up. Let's go F. So this is F in what shape? It's a trick question. This is F in the F shape, right? Because again, if we look at it, if we put our index finger here and make an F, this is F in the F shape. So that means the next shape is going to be the E shape. So here's F in the F shape. To get to the E shape, we're going to look at our last played note, which is our ring finger here. Step to the next fret. So I'm on 2, step to 3, make what looks like an E shape. Now, my next shape is going to cycle all the way around to the C shape. I'm going to take the 3 in a row, replace it with a bar, and make what looks like a C shape. So here's my F in the C shape. Then my B flat shape comes next. So I'm looking at my pinky, my last played note, replace it with my index, and make my B flat shape from there. So those are all Fs. Now, not only does this work with, again, there's only 4 big movable minor shapes. There's, and again, there's also, we talked about how we already have our triad, C, E, and G with those first 3 strings here. Technically, I can play that as a C chord. I could play this as a C chord, triad. But again, to have everything movable, this is what we call, that movable shape, that kind of template. That's why there's only 4 big kind of voicings of each, shapes of each, because we have the 4 strings. Now, I want to move forward from here. I know we're getting kind of long, but I want to make sure that is understandable. And again, I have this in, if you look at the packet, we have the major versions of this with the exact kind of thing where, skip to step, use those same 3 notes, etc. All right, so let's go back. Now, not only does this apply to chord shapes, but let's take a look. And actually, let me do this. So I'm going to move this down for now. All right, let's talk about scales real quick. We have an open C. Let's just do that. A D, an E, an F, a G, an A, a B, a C. So what this is saying is that For our C major scale, we have an open C, 2nd fret for the D, open E for the E note, step to the F, 3rd fret to the G, open A, skip to the B, and step to the C. Again, we could piece this out if we wanted to. Again, if we start on the C string, we know 1 to 2 is a whole step. So a whole step is 2 half steps. That's why it's the 2nd fret. And because we have an E string, that's our 3rd note there. But I could also play it up here if I wanted to, which is a whole step up from that D, right? So we're gonna start all over. Open C as our 1. Whole step up to the 2. Open E for the 3rd note in our scale. 3 to 4 we know is a half step. 4 to 5 is a whole step, so that's why we do a skip. We have an open A. And then we know it's skip to the B, a whole step, and then a half step to the C. Now, here is what makes this really, really cool. I want you now to do that same pattern, but this time without your index. I want you to keep your index all the way up here. And then, so we're gonna play open C, 2nd fret using your ring, open E, 1 with your middle, 3 with your pinky, open A, 2, and 3. One more time. Open C, 2, open E, 1, 3, open A, 2, 3. Good. Now, take this finger, the index finger, and push it to that 1st fret. You can ignore the G string for now because we're not ever playing it. So, we're going to pretend now that this is our open strings. So if this is open, then we have 2, open E with the bar, 1, 3 again, open A, 2, 3. What did we just play? We just played our C sharp major scale. So if I moved it up again and did the same pattern, if this is open, and then 2, open, 1, 3, open, 2, 3. That's our D major scale. If I take another step up, D sharp major scale, E major scale, F major scale, etc. Now, right now I'm using that bar as a visual guide, but eventually we want to imagine that bar being there, let's say on that 5th fret. But I'm only going to play 1 note of that bar at a time. So if I did the bar version, again, I'm thinking open, 2, open, 1, 3, open, 2, 3. Now, if I played 1 at a time, I'm pretending again this is open, open, 2, bring the bar over, open, 1, 3, bring the bar over, open, 2, 3. So then I want you to be able to, instead of doing that bar all the way, you can just do from C to C sharp, D, etc. And we'll get into the other scales down the road, but for now, just focusing on those major scales. Now, let's push this even further. Let's start thinking about this in the grand scheme of solos and fills. So what we have here are 4 variables. And on the right, we have the chord that we're going to be playing over. Oh, thanks, Pix Pusher. Yeah, if you guys have time, please press that like button. If you get a chance, it does help us kind of bring awareness to the videos and the channel. So that would be a huge thank you from us. Okay, so we have C, G, A minor, F. Those are the chords that we're going to be playing over. I'm going to let you know we're playing the key of C. And actually, for those of you who've been keeping track, if we played a C, G, A minor, F progression, that would be a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. All right, with that said, these 4 variables, you're going to give me notes in the key of C, which means no sharps, no flats. Now, we're going to write our first song together. So in the chat, write any one note that comes to mind in the key of C. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Write them out right now, real quick. I'm going to pick random notes. All right, I see a D, a B, an F, an A. Good, keep them coming. E, A, B, A, G, C, E, G, C, E. I saw an F and B. I think so. Okay. All right. So this is our very first song that we wrote together. And again, the ones above the lines are notes. These guys here are the chords that we're playing over. All right. So I'm going to play our very first song that we wrote together. It's going to sound like this. D, E, F, A. Oh, God. E, A, B, A. G, C, E, G. C, E, F, B. Ooh. I gotta be honest, it's not my favorite song thus far. But I'm gonna change one thing. All right, let me take a screenshot of this first to really solidify our first original song together. Now, I'm gonna make one change. Oops. All right, with that one change, let's see how our song has progressed. Whew. D, B, F, C. E, A, B, G. G, C, E, A. Not too bad, right? Not too bad. What was the change that I made? Because right before that, everything was just gibberish. It was completely random notes. But what change did I make? That last note of each phrase was the root of the chord that I was going to start playing into. So there was a shift in all of those notes leading to that next chord. That's why all of a sudden it started to kind of fit. Not too bad, right? Let me try it one more time. We have D, B. And all of a sudden it just works. It just fits. This is how easy soloing can be. And again, there's a difference, and that's not to say that the idea of this is what, what we try to do is give you a starting point, because eventually when we solo, we want to just hear what's in our head and what's in our heart and portray that to the ukulele. But part of this introduction to this, part of just getting started, is giving you some safe notes and some rules to get you playing, to start connecting things on a whole nother level. And this is how easy it can be. So your homework with this is that we're going to keep that last column as is. And you're absolutely right. It was the root of the chord I was going into. Now, let's experiment this a little bit more. But this is where I want you to, I'll send a screenshot of this in the additional packet that we send out, so that you have that homework sheet there. Now from here, yes, you can do random stuff and see what works and save what works, but let's actually start to apply themes to it. Let's say, maybe let's do a walk up to our last note. So if we do a walk up, let's go backwards here. That'll be a B, this will be an A, this will be a G. From the G backwards, F, E, D, A, G, F, E, and then E, D, C. Now again, this is where there's some confusion. Again, everything on the left over those lines are single notes. Everything on the right is a chord progression that we're playing over. And again, the notes right now, no sharps, no flats, because again, we are in the key of C. And even if we're playing over the A minor chord, we're still in the key of C. Don't forget that. Now, we have a walk up going to the root. Let's see how it sounds. G, A, B, C. D, E, F, G. E, F, G, A, C. Not too bad, right? All of a sudden there was a theme. By the third one, you could almost anticipate what you're going to hear. And this, again, is the cool thing about paying attention to what people are actually doing, because there's so many tongue-in-cheek moments that you'll start to really hear. Let me take a screenshot of that too. That you'll hear as people do things now. Because again, I erased the C. Let me put the C there. C. Screenshot. Okay, so let's take this idea even further. What if I did something crazy? Let's do the exact same 3 notes for every line. Now, instinctively, we think, this is going to be really boring, right? If it's the same 3 notes. But watch what happens. A, B, C, C. And all of a sudden, it sounds like a top 40 pop hit, right? You already knew what it was going to sound like before I even played it halfway through. So these are the things that we can think about as we're doing our homework and putting in these kind of random notes. We can totally do random. I should screenshot. But again, there can be themes. There can be other things we think about to relate to. Awesome. Now, again, let's take a look at some of those notes that we did before. And one of the reasons why certain combinations of notes don't really work well, because again, this is all pitch related, right? So if I was to even talk to you, and if I was to go from high pitch to low pitch, like, hi, how are you doing today? Those jumps are horrendous to the ear, right? So if we're doing jumps like, it's a little much compared to finding these kind of ways where, yes, I can still do a jump, but it's in different inflections in my voice. I mean, it leads to that and still has that progressive movement, but I'm not going up and down, up and down. So that's another thing to think about as you're starting to do your homework. Again, think of it as your voice. And all of a sudden you're going to hear, oh yeah, I like sticking around. Right around that area. And then you can play around with those jumps. But, and things we didn't even think about yet. Here's your next assignment too. Once you get used to kind of building those progressions up, and again, you can save runs that you love and continue to do. And again, the key is keeping that last note as the root of the chord you're building into. Now, once you're set with that, then all of a sudden, if you take an eraser and you create 6 variables instead of 3, all of a sudden now you can do stuff like hear how much you can do with that. But again, the secret is keeping the variables small at first. Nothing is more frustrating than just being given everything at once and not knowing what to do with it. Keep it simple and then slowly build up how many variables there are. Not only that, but I told you, rules are meant to be broken, correct? So once you, again, have your variables in mind, maybe you change the note that you end on. Like, for example, I love ending on a major 7th note, that B note. So I could do something like, and it just, having that note just kind of ringing out is these are the little things that you can start experimenting with. But we know the root is going to work because it's just solidly in there. But for a major chord, what other notes should be safe? Your 1, 3, and 5. So maybe instead of ending on the C, you can end on the E, or you can end on the G. And they're all gonna sound fantastic. It'll sound a little different. But again, when you start, just stay with the root for now. Because again, we want to keep those variables small, but you can see how this can get progressively fancier and textured. Yes, all I did was erase the line. I put a little eraser mark in the middle so that each line turned into 2. That's all it was. Now, let's see. The part 2 to this is that not only can we do this with single notes, but now I'm going to change this up, and what we're going to do is actually apply this to chords. Now, what that means, the first and 4th column now are actually going to be the original chords. The 2 here are going to be single notes. Sorry, I'm writing with one hand on this. Is not fun. All right. So that means anything in that C scale, I can add to my original chord. So it's going to sound like this. I have my original C chord in the first column. Now let's say I want to change it up. I can add an F note. Sounds pretty good. I can add a G note up here. And then back to my original C. So for that first line, it's going to sound like this. C, add the F, add the G, back to C. Again, C, add F, add G, back to C. C, add the F, add the G, back to C. Not bad, right? Now let's go to the G chord. Here, again, in my C scale, I can add my C note, because that belongs in the C scale. I can stretch out to my D note, so let's do that. I can add my C note and my D note. So I have G chord, add my C note, stretch to add my D note, back to G. Let's try that together. G, add the C, add the D, back to G. G, add the C, add the D, back to G. Not bad. Let's look at A minor. Lots of notes that I can add in the key of C for my C scale, right? I can add any of those. Let's do my B note here to the C note and back to the A minor. So I'm gonna add my B note and then my C note. So A minor, add the B, add the C, and then back to A minor. Again, A minor, add the B, add the C, A minor. And for the F chord, let's do the exact same notes. We'll do F, add the B, add the C, back to F. Again, F, add the B, add the C, back to F. Not bad. So if I was to play this through, it would sound like this. Not too bad, right? So the important things to remember is that in whatever key we're playing, that progression in the key of C, I can add any notes in that C scale. Even if I'm playing G, I'm still thinking in the key of C. I can add my open A, B, C, D, open A, to A minor. See people just kind of riffing off of these chords. That's how easy it is. It literally is just playing around with your scale notes to add these extra voicings in, and it sounds incredible. And sometimes, and it's obvious when you hit a note that doesn't belong in the scale. Resolve it in the back. But it's so easy to just start picking it up and playing. And again, I'm starting in the key of C because we have our C scale that we should be practicing every day, all right? So we know what notes we can add. Now, there was a fantastic question. Oh, is it appropriate to do this in a jam setting? Completely yes. And again, here's the thing. If you do happen on a note that doesn't match what everyone else is doing for some reason, just take it off and experiment with a new one. I mean, jamming is the perfect time to experiment with things like this, especially the picking stuff. Now, the one big question that I want to bring up earlier was that it wasn't this particular key, but I'm going to relate it to this one. Let's say we're in C and we're playing 5'8" or 5'2", 6'8", 6'7", what? The E7 is the next chord, and we're in the key of C. The song is in the key of C, but that E7 doesn't normally belong in that's the family of C. So what happens is that, let's look what we're playing. We have a B note, which is found in the key of C. We have an E note, a D note, but it's that guy, that G sharp, and this is what we call an accidental. So what this means, for the remainder of that measure that we're playing that E7, anytime you play a G, you just play G sharp. And that's it. That and again, that's how easy it is to think about that. Again, if we know our scales and we know the things that don't belong, all we have to do for that accidental measure is compensate by playing what's different, which is that G sharp. So C, I can play those scales notes. E7, I've got to make sure I hit the G sharp instead of a G, right? It doesn't really fit. So that's where it comes into play. And then, and again, this song is just crazy because it goes into the A7. And again, we can talk about circle fifths later. That's not that big of a deal. But it goes to A7, and there's a weird C sharp there. And again, C sharp is not found in the key of C. So that means as an accidental, I'm going to hit that C sharp to D7. D7 isn't found usually because there's an F sharp, and then finally resolves to G7, which is the 5 chord back to C. So again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, find those big progressions that you're used to seeing that has that family of chords. Keep the variables small, and then we can push off into all those other areas. But for that question from all the way back in the beginning, that's the only thing you have to think about for those accidentals, is that for that particular measure, that's what you have to play instead of that original note. Whew. Okay, now I'm going to do one more big assignment with you guys. Okay, so we talked about anything in that C major scale as things to pull from when you're doing the single note scales. So let's do, we'll do da, 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 da. And Sarah, are you available?
For a little bit. Let me grab my jacket.
Okay, so again, the chords, we're going to be playing C, G, A minor, and F. And again, we're saying for now to keep that last note in your run over the root of the chord we're going into. Now, right now how this works is that we're actually doing a pickup into the next chord. So if I was to count 1, 2, 3, pluck, 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 C, 2, 3, pluck, 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 G, 2, 3, pluck, 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 A, 2, 3, pluck, 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 F. Now, what I want you guys to do is you can either watch along or you can start creating your own melodies. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of what this is going to sound like if you're to practice this at home. So 1, 2, 3, pluck, 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 C, 2, 3, pluck, 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 G, 2, 3, pluck, 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 A, 2, 3, pluck, 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 F, 2, 3, pluck, 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 C, 2, 3, pluck, 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 G, 2, 3, pluck, 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 A, 2, 3, pluck, 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 F, 2, 3. Now, again, we talked about then splitting each variable up twice so that each line you do 2 lines instead. So it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Now, there's a couple things we didn't even talk about. One was repetition of notes, like all right, don't be afraid to repeat notes in the things that you try. Another thing we didn't talk about is adding rests. And rests are such a big, important part of these solos and these phrases that we do. For example, so 1, 2, 3. Now, so again, don't be afraid to use rest as well, because that does help you create those phrasing patterns. And I kind of screwed up a little bit there because I was thinking of the next thing I wanted to do.
And I just wanted to say real quick, as far as rests go, when you speak, you rest when you talk. So remember that when you are soloing, you're speaking, and you want to rest when you are soloing, because think of it like you're speaking. That's all.
Awesome. All right. So not only that, but this, remember all those other techniques that you learned in numerous workshops throughout the years or months or days, like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides. This is where you get to experiment. So for example, 1, 2, 3. So again, this is why I love, again, keeping it simple, keeping this template, because it allows you to utilize all the things that you've been learning, all the different techniques, all the different patterns. This is how you can apply it right away. Especially, again, go through the sheet music and the books that you guys already frequent. You don't need to learn new songs just to apply all of these different things. So definitely, go through songs that you already know and love and try to add these elements to it. One of the things that I used to do was record myself playing, like on a red cassette tape recorder, and just playing that back and trying to add those notes within, that recording. There's so much more to talk about and to push forward. But I'm going to spend a couple extra minutes here talking about, again, how to utilize these patterns. And the one thing I didn't get to today, but I'll expand on later, I think, but I'll kind of introduce it right now. We knew that this particular, no, I don't want to go into it too much. As a little experiment, can you just play a C chord over and over, please?
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
Just the C chord. So if she's playing a C chord, again, I can hit all of these notes in my C scale, and it'll sound fine. Now, with that shape, again, I'll really dive into this in my next one. But I can take almost that exact same shape, and be able to hit the exact same notes in a different order. But I can get from here to here and be able to jump from one part of the neck to the next and keep almost that exact same form. And so I'm going to introduce this just a hair, but I'll get into it in the next one, I promise. But if we start at the 5th, I don't want to. Okay, forget it. I'll make sure to really push that the next time we see each other. The big thing is, again, and what I'll do is in that packet, in the people's emails that we have that donated packet, I'm going to put together a quick backing track using those chords, and I'll say 1, 2, 3, pluck, 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 C. And during those plucks, that's when you're going to pick any notes that you want in that C scale. And this is how you're going to be able to practice it even without someone like Sarah that lives with you that could help you play it. So I'll make a backing track for you and send that out probably by tonight or tomorrow, for those of you who were able to donate for the packet, so that you do have something tangible to practice with. So again, I'm going to be utilizing this kind of, maybe snapshot that. Oh, not turn off. So snapshot. but I will be utilizing this kind of template. And I'll say again, oops. We'll be utilizing, I'll just be saying, 1, 2, 3, pluck, 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 C, 2, 3, pluck, 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 G, 2, etc. And that's where you fill in your safe notes. And I might give you guys also another chord progression later as well, so you can experiment with keys other than C. I'm so glad you guys stuck around. This has been so much fun, and I was so excited for this particular workshop because I know it can be incredibly frustrating, this whole thing. But let me
And so while Craig is getting set, I just want to say, everybody, make sure in the comments, just say, do the little dab symbol, say thank you, share your love for those of you that made it the whole time with the 2 hours. And also, please don't forget to like this video. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get notices when we go live, so you won't miss a live session.
And for those of you who did get a ton out of it and wanted to help donate to help future live streams as well, you can go to that address up there, and that goes directly to us. And that's also for some future events. We're going to use some of that funds for paying guests to do some special workshops as well. But this was crazy. This was so much fun.
Yes.
There's so much I still want to do. So there will be another workshop, I think, that will be a kind of a part 2. For our artist work students, I will have some extra material for you guys to practice this with this.
And for Artist Works, we will be doing a sort of more broken down series of the theory, that's the word, theory for as it applies to the ukulele. That's something that we're going to be working on this coming year for you folks. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm actually going to go ahead and sign off if that's all right, because I need to start putting a little boy down for a nap. So thank you guys so much, and I'm going to let Craig continue to take over from here.
Okay, thanks for your help, Sarah.
Oh, sure, of course.
Oh, but and again, I'll stick around for just a little bit if there's any big questions we can help answer. But again, the major things to take away from this, again, using that whole half, being able to write through your scales, in any given key. And again, pick the keys that you frequent. Don't worry too much about like E flat or things like that. You're not going to be playing an E flat. And then utilizing those scales to understand how to build your chords, but most importantly, how to find quickly the family of chords that you're going to be in for that given key for 99% of the songs. Again, unless there is a weird accidental in there. And then again, utilizing those scales to start being able to just a few notes here and there in the solo grid. Again, keep the variables small. It's going to be so much easier compared to just doing everything at once. You guys, I give you guys credit. This is not an easy theme to sit through. You guys did amazing. I loved the questions coming up. I love hearing about the light bulb moments. Absolutely fantastic. Oh my gosh. Again, this was one of my favorite workshops over the past few years. And I'm so glad we're able to do this for you guys. This is our last big event before the move. Our plane is on September 15th, going to Oahu. So we might do a couple, maybe some fun, low-key live stream chats with other artists and friends. So the Royce Sakuma book has all of those. Has every single voicing and how it moves, and you'll see those 4 big movable shapes in everything, like the minor 7s, the flat 9. It's all laid out. So when you're practicing those movable shapes, that's an excellent way to do it, as well as experiment saying, instead of that major chord, I'll try a major 6, or things like that, or a major 7, just to see and experiment with, because half of the battle is just trying. Some of the best things that we do to this day were born from mistakes. because it gave us a way to think outside that box. You know, it gave us a way to try new things, and music is all about that. But yeah, and we hope to. I know we have a bunch of new content coming up for Artist Works that we got to figure out how we're gonna record that. Hopefully in Hawaii, because it's still I don't want to catch another plane to Napa to record in those studios while things are unsafe. So hopefully we'll have the ability to do a lot of new content from Hawaii. I think it's gonna be great. We have that all planned out, and we have some new live stream ideas from all of your input. And again, if there's things that you guys want to learn more of, please send us an email. We love putting together things that you guys are interested in doing. Oh my gosh, yeah, this was a ton of fun. I was nervous because this type of theme can be very hard to do like this, but I think having Sarah monitor the chat too, I know it's helped a lot. But thank you guys so much for sticking it out. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so glad you guys got a lot out of this. This is great. Oh, and I'll put in the chat that the ukulele chord book from Roy Sakuma as well. You know, and the big thing is just not to be intimidated. As you saw how easy it was to just manipulate one note here and there, it is not that bad. You know, a lot of times it's very easy to just write it off as something I could never do, and then that's it. So I'm glad you guys are being able to kind of, again, look at the small steps along the way and just do one little thing at a time. It's going to be so incredibly useful. Oh, thank you guys for all the kind words. Good. Yeah, we we will miss living in San Diego. It's been incredible to us. I mean, you know, from having Holly Ukulele, which just opened back up. They've been so incredible. All the different ukulele groups in San Diego have been awesome. The Tuesday groups, especially on the Mondays, absolutely awesome. But we'll definitely be touring. Once things open up again, we'll definitely be through all over California for sure. Yes, a replay of this session will be posted as soon as YouTube processes everything. And you know, if things, if you have any suggestions on things that could have been, you know, explained differently, or if there are certain parts that really helped, definitely let us know in emails too. Because again, we love fine tuning our workshops. We love, you know, we're not perfect. You know, things will always change, and I love being able to adapt in that sense. Oh, awesome. We will be in Manoa actually. Oh. And I'll add Roy Sakuma's link for the book in that packet, the follow-up packet as well, for you guys. Oh, awesome, Abby. Oh, thank you, Barry. I was a little concerned. Will Logi, you'll be fine. And again, Logi, we tend to think of it differently just because you have more of that bass approach, whether intentional or not, that happens with that Logi being maneuvered around. So for packets wise, though, the packets that are currently up on the website is part 1, and they're all the exact same. Some people have been paying it forward. For others who can't afford a packet at this time, once I get the screenshots uploaded to make one final big packet with like the links and everything, we'll send that out to all of the people, because we have the email addresses, all of those who are able to donate for a packet, and then we'll change out the ones for future viewings. If they go to the website, they'll have that final packet there as well. So if you already purchased the packet, you're set. We'll send you another packet with everything probably in the next 48 hours. Oh, thank you guys so much. I type more comments, but practicing. That's good. Again, those shapes. You know those shapes. You know, part of it is just taking the time to sit with it, and that's all you do for like 20 minutes. And after that 20 minutes, you're set. You know, so C in the C shape, C in the B flat shape, C in the F shape, C in the E shape, and then repeats back to the C shape. I mean, so you know, again, there's so much you can do with this. There's so much you can even focus on as your priority. So pending where you are, you know, whether it's just being able to write your scales or wanting to work on those movable shapes, now's the time to really hone in on that. I think you guys are going to be awesome. Oh, the ukulele community is the best. It really, really is. Yes, part two will include part one as a whole. Yeah. There are some chords that I just enjoy better hearing on the high G, and some with the low G as well. There are some voicings that are just incredibly beautiful that are impossible for high G to make. Oh, awesome, Holly. I do believe our course, I think Sarah actually has a lesson on how to not only read tabs but create them as well. I'll double, if you send me an email, I'll double check on that with her once she's done putting camera down. Oh, awesome. And I'm glad people got out of the bar chords and stuff too, because again, that's so important to me, not hurting yourself while playing. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, we serenade Cameron all the time to sleep too. Yeah, there's always us singing or playing music, um, whether he likes it or not. Oh my gosh. All right, I think that's it. So for us, the next few weeks, we're going to be focused on the move, focusing on making sure health insurance gets transferred, all that craziness. You know, making sure we're registered to vote. Oh my gosh, so lots to do, and hopefully we'll do a couple fun, non, uh, uh, big workshopy live streams before we leave. Maybe just as a thank you. I'm trying to find a lot of the photos we've had from the past years on all the travel, because a lot of people don't realize. I mean, one of the big write-ups I'm actually creating later. We'll be talking about, like, you know, I was so proud that, you know, as musicians we were able to like maintain a diamond status with Delta. I mean, that's how much we were traveling, and I was just, you know, it's for the first time in like 5 to 7 years we've been home now more than we've ever been before, which is really different, really, really different. But I mean, we've been loving spending the time with Cameron. But I know part of our life is definitely changing, and it will be more picky about our travels, but it definitely won't be quite as much moving forward. But I can't thank you guys enough for your support. I mean, it's been such an incredible journey thus far, and being able to continue what we do, especially during a pandemic like this, and being able to take care of each other and paying it forward for other people too, has been absolutely, absolutely stunning. So thank you guys for also inspiring us as well. I think we have a CD pack and string pack on sale on our website currently. I'm not sure if we have anything else that we'll bundle up together, but we'll try and get rid of, not get rid of, we'll try and send off as much stock as possible that can make it easier for the trip. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Our email is gmazel@gmail.com. And again, our website is craigandsarah.com. Definitely make sure to jump on our mailing list if you haven't already, to be kept up with everything. Especially a big thank you to the people who did the diaper club uh, uh, for the month with the packet. Sarah finalized all of the extra PDFs for that as well. That's going to be fantastic. So thank you guys so very much. Again, thank you for spending your Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening with us. It was fantastic to see you guys and have one last big workshop before we leave. We can't thank you enough. Much love and aloha to everyone. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Stay safe and healthy and inspired. Bye.